Hello, welcome to Beyond the Blade. Usually, when something happens in our country, the fixing of responsibility becomes a huge problem in the country. Why? Because when you fix responsibility on someone, the first response that that person has is, no, it is not my responsibility, it is someone else's responsibility. So, I apologize for my cat. My cat is there roaming around in the room. So I apologize for that. But before we get into the video, what are we going to see today? We are going to look into the November 10 blast which happened in Delhi, and we are trying to explain how the investigation will go into that and how India responded to the Delhi blast. Welcome to Beyond the Blade.
कपिल भाई, अब हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं?
सर हम लाल किला जा रहे हैं, लाल किला फोर्ट जा रहे हैं सर।
So today we have come to the Red Fort to see the blast site, where the blast has happened and how the people are rehabilitating right now. So as you can see behind me, there is the Red Fort entrance, and opposite to the Red Fort entrance, you can see that there is a temple, the Digambar Lal Jain temple, and we will also be seeing where the blast exactly happened. That is the signal where the blast has happened. We'll be looking at that, and we'll be looking to see what is the situation of this place right now and how the people are rehabilitated.
The date is October 19, 2025 in the Bunpora area of Naugam sector, just outside Srinagar in Kashmir of India. The SSP of the area, Dr. Sundeep Chakravarthy, looks at a poster which was not seen in the valley for a very long time, especially after the abrogation of Article 370. It was a poster of the terrorist organization Jaish-e-Mohammed, a United Nations designated terrorist outfit. On the 10th of November 2025, a single powerful explosion rocks Delhi, the heart of Delhi, near the Lal Quila, or otherwise famously known as the Red Fort, near the gate number 1. How are these two incidents associated? How are these two incidents connected? And how did the Indian agencies succeed in preventing a huge disaster? How is the investigation into an explosion done? These are the questions that we will be answering in this video. At the time of recording of this episode, the government of India has designated the event, that is the blast which happened on the 10th of November 2025, as a terror-related incident or a terrorist-related incident. So that is how we will be handling the incident in this episode as well. 10th of November 2025, a traffic signal near the gate number 1 of Lal Quila Red Fort. Red Fort metro station is nearby in Delhi, India. It is around 6:52 p.m. and the area is fully crowded. Why? Because 6:52 p.m. is a peak hour. Peak hours, traffic increases, people increase, and everyone outside increases. Nearby, Digambar Jain Lal Mandir is also buzzing with activity as pilgrims shuffle in and out of the temple and also the nearby areas. It is a normal Monday evening till a powerful explosion rocks the area, leaving people running and scattering for fear. How are we confirming this to be the area of explosion? We are using visual cues and comparative analysis of publicly available images such as the Google Maps Street View, and all our sources will be given in the description. You can go out and check out our sources as well.
So one of the major visual cues that we are following is the green color Shikhar board which is on the frame right now. You can see the frame. I can zoom into the board to show you the board. So that is the point of reference from all the images that we have.
The source of the explosion seems to be a white Hyundai i20 car with nearby vehicles also being set in fire by the explosion and the fiery fallout from the explosion. So there is an explosion and then there is fire splitting out of the explosion, and that is setting fire to the vehicles which are nearby the original explosion as well. People nearest to the explosion are the first to be hit by fire and the forceful pressure change caused by the explosion. Rickshaws and pedestrians are thrown in all the directions and are toppled over into each other and are thrown into the adjacent structures as well. People far enough to be away from the direct fire are also hit by the pressure shock wave caused due to the explosion being thrown away into the adjacent structures. People even farther can also be affected by this particular explosion. How does an explosion injure the people involved and how are they affected. That's what we'll be seeing in this section. The first forensic overview will be discussing the blast itself, because that is the most major important part of this event. So we'll be discussing the blast itself. Any explosion is a rapid release of energy stored in a material. The energy can be released as heat, it can be released as pressure, it can also be released in the form of light. You must have seen flashbang grenades. These flashbang grenades are exclusively used by foreign militaries and foreign polices to control or curtail particular public incidents such as riots or other issues. It is also used in counter-terrorism operations. So what is this flashbang? This flashbang is basically a grenade which, when thrown into the room, does not explode much, does not cause any direct injury, but it produces a huge sound. It produces a massive sound along with the massive discharge of light. So what does this do? This basically confuses the person who is being affected by the light and the sound, and in that confusion the police will swoop in and they will try to arrest that particular person or curtail that particular person basically. So an explosion can also release energy in the form of heat, that is fire, or it can also produce a huge amount of pressure in a very short amount of time, thereby causing a massive pressure change and causing affections by that. An explosion, if it is strong enough, can cause a fast moving wave of highly pressurized air known as a shock wave. So a highly pressurized wave of air which is known as a shock wave. Why is it known as a shock wave? It happens very suddenly, it happens very fast, and there is a huge pressure change in that particular area. So that is why it is known as a shock wave. One of the greatest examples for a shock wave is the explosion of something known as ammonium nitrate, which happened in a country known as Lebanon. So it happened in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, on the 4th of August 2020, when stored ammonium nitrate inside the harbor of Beirut ignited by mistake, thereby leading to a massive explosion. We'll add a few videos or a few photos of the calamity as well, so that you can have an idea of how a shock wave works. Some even more powerful bombs like nuclear explosions, like we know Hiroshima, Nagasaki. These nuclear explosions can cause such a big pressure shock wave that the air pressure near the center of the explosion, where the explosion occurred, it decreases too much. Why? Because there is too much pressure released in a very short amount of time, leading to all this pressure moving out. After all this pressure moves out, what happens is that there is a central area of low pressure. So what happens is that this low pressure area can lead to a negative pressure which pulls the debris back in. So basically what happens, first there is a pressure shock wave, all the debris is pushed outside, and once the pressure is decreased, there is a negative pressure which is created due to this massive change in pressure, leading all the debris to be pulled back in towards the center of the explosion, thereby injuring more people on a tertiary basis. So this is known as a secondary shock wave or secondary damage. Any explosion can cause damage through 4 levels of injuries, and depending on the type of explosive and accelerant used. So basically you need to first understand the difference between an explosive and an accelerant. Basically an explosive is something which directly combusts and releases a lot of energy and heat, whereas an accelerant, what will it do? Once a thing is already burning, when something is already burning, if you pour a little bit of more accelerant into it, it will burn brighter, it will burn bigger. So that is the basic difference between an explosive and an accelerant. So basically if your ammonium nitrate is the explosive, if you pour petrol on it, that is a accelerant, right? So how do these accelerants work? They work by increasing the heat by burning the fuel more efficiently or for a longer period of time. So any explosion can cause damage through 4 levels of injuries. So these are primary. So these primary injuries affect the people who are the nearest to the explosion, which is caused due to the direct pressure and heat effects of the explosion. So basically if someone is burned by an explosion, or if they are hit by the pressure wave which causes a tear or a rupture in their body, that is they are the primary victims, or they are victims of the primary order. The secondary injuries usually affect people a little farther away from the source of the explosion. So mostly this is caused due to the pressure effects and the debris created by the explosion. So basically if someone is pushed away due to the injury, or if something like a rock or a nail or something which is pushed by the explosion, which is caused to move by the explosion, if that comes and hits the person, they are the secondary victim. And then the tertiary injuries are caused when a person is thrown away by an explosion and then they fall down and an injury is caused due to that particular act, right? So an explosion occurs and a person is directly affected, that is primary type of injury. And an explosion occurs, a rock is thrown away by that explosion, it goes and hits the person and they are injured, that is secondary type of injury. Due to the explosion, the person falls over and they hit their head on the ground, that is tertiary injury. So can there be any other type of injuries? Yes, there can be a quaternary type of injury, which is a special category of injury which can be caused due to either any chemical which is present in the bomb or any radioactive material or any other harmful substance which is present along with the bomb, which has been spread in the air or spread throughout the area due to the explosion which was caused. This can be seen as a very good example in a movie called Vishwarupam, which was directed by Kamal Haasan. In the climax, he will show that there was supposed to be an explosion. He will say that it is not like a nuclear explosion, but it is worse. Why? Because he will be talking about a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb is basically a bomb which is surrounded by radioactive material, which does not get involved in the explosion itself. The radioactive material does not burn or does not get involved in the explosion itself, but due to the explosion, this radioactive material is spread throughout an area, cleaning which up will be very, very difficult or impossible to do. Therefore, it will cause a lot of radiation related injury and radiation related damage. How did this Delhi explosion affect people, or rather how did the people get injured who were nearby to the explosion? So that is what we'll be seeing in this particular section. According to news reports, at least 12 people were de-lived during the event, and with at least 20 other people who were injured. Latest CCTV footage, which was released by Delhi Police, shows that the car explodes within seconds and it also throws flame and debris on the nearby structures and nearby vehicle. According to preliminary autopsy reports, the people in the vicinity have sustained severe injuries, including multiple fractures and head traumas. According to preliminary autopsy reports, the pressure wave caused extensive damage, internal damage, that too, rupturing the lungs, eardrums and intestines, while many showed deep wounds and heavy bleeding, suggesting that they were thrown against hard surfaces such as wall, road or other vehicles. No splinter traces were found on the body, indicating mostly that there was no shrapnel or any other material which was included with the bomb, which was spread away or which was forced away by the explosion itself. Most of the people were standing during the incident. Most of the injuries have been concentrated on the upper body and the upper limbs of the patients, or rather of the deceased. So how do these injuries occur? More than just the heat of the bomb, the pressure of the bomb causes a lot of disturbance and a lot of destruction in its way. How? Because see, we have a lot of air-filled cavities in our body. Our lung is a air-filled cavity, our sinuses are air-filled cavities, even our intestines to a level are filled with air. So there is a property of air known as resonance. So this property can be seen when, for example, some heavy machinery is operating near your house. The machinery will be operating somewhere outside the house, whereas if you put your hand on your table or on a glass pane on a window, you can see that the vibrations caused due to that particular work can be felt in this particular thing also. This is something known as resonance, right? So what happens is that when there is a massive pressure change, the air pushes the rest of the air which is in front of it in order for it to move forward. So if for something to move forward, there needs to be space. So since air is all around us and there is a big pressure change happening at a very small time, this air pushes the surrounding air, which causes further vibration in the air which is surrounding all around the explosion. So not just restricted to the explosion area. So what happens in such a case? Any air-filled cavity inside our body also undergoes this massive pressure change if we are standing in a nearby area or in an area up until which the pressure change moves. So what happens? This sudden increase in pressure change can cause internal damage such as the rupture of alveoli of the lung. So alveoli of the lung, alveoli is the smallest part of the lung. It will be like small air-filled sacs. So these air-filled sacs cannot handle a lot of pressure. Why? Because they are very thin. They need to facilitate the exchange of oxygen from the blood to the atmosphere and back. So they are very thin and they are very delicate. So what happens is that due to this increased pressure change, this humongous pressure change in a very short amount of time, these alveoli also get ruptured. Same things happen to our sinuses, happen to our stomach, our intestines, any air-filled cavity in the body, it will definitely be damaged by these explosions. Other than this, we can see that the patients have undergone, or rather the deceased have undergone a lot of external injuries as well. This can be either due to primary effect directly due to the bomb, secondary effect due to some things which have been sent flying by the bomb, or due to tertiary reasons because they were pushed or they were thrown onto something due to the effects of the bomb. So the autopsies of these deceased were done on the next day itself, and the preliminary autopsy reports have given these findings. Multiple swabs are also taken from the bodies. Why are swabs taken from the bodies? Because any chemical reaction, any combustion which happens near a person is bound to leave residue on the person's body. Even if it is not on the body, traces of it might be detectable, traces of it might be you might be able to find traces of it on the person's body. So multiple swabs are taken from every deceased body and every affected person's body, and all these swab samples are sent to the Forensic Sciences Lab. Most probably in this case, CFSL, Central Forensic Sciences Lab, Rohini would have received this material, and for which they will, or using which they will do something known as residue analysis, explosive residue analysis. So any residue or any leftover which is left after the explosion can be identified and used to identify any particular explosive. So in order to find what explosive was used, the swabs will be tested for that particular residue. So what was the material used in this particular event? Usually what happens is that in this type of explosion, the type of explosion itself can give us a clue as to what explosive was used or what explosive was detonated. Some explosive produce immense amounts of heat leading to primary burns. Some cause an immense release of pressure in a very short time, leading to pressure related injuries, as I told before. In this video, we are able to see, in this particular video, we are able to see that after the explosion, there seems to be scattered flames thrown off in all the directions. This behavior of the explosive, when combined with the context of the explosion, leads us to believe a combination of ammonium nitrate, a commonly available agricultural fertilizer, along with fuel oil was used as an explosive. Now, ammonium nitrate in itself is not explosive. Ammonium nitrate is a fertilizer. It is used as a fertilizer in agriculture, for agricultural purposes. Throughout the country, not just in India, throughout the world, ammonium nitrate is a very well-known fertilizer. Why? Because it contains a lot of nitrogen compounds, which is very useful for growing healthy plants. So it is not a banned substance per se, but it is a controlled substance. So this is why we need to know the difference between what is a banned substance and a controlled substance. A banned substance will not be available in the market whatsoever. Nobody can sell it, nobody can buy it. It is totally banned. Whereas a controlled substance is sold under strict supervision. It is sold under strict conditions. For example, your psychotropic drugs or your opioid drugs, your morphine, your fentanyl, all these drugs are available in the market for medical purposes, but you cannot get them without a proper prescription. You cannot buy these drugs without a proper prescription. Even though enforcement is a joke in our country, it is still a restricted drug. So that is the difference between a banned substance and a controlled substance. So ammonium nitrate is a very well controlled substance. It is a white crystalline powder which is usually used as a fertilizer. It is harmless in its native form and is usually highly stable and is not explosive. But mixing it with a combustible material with something known as fuel oil. So this fuel oil can make it highly flammable and it can also make it highly explosive. So what is this fuel oil? This fuel oil is a byproduct of petroleum production. It is a yellowish or brownish oily substance which is easily flammable. The fuel oil is easily imbibed into the porous ammonium nitrate material and acts as a source of energy, while the ammonium nitrate acts as an oxidizing agent. The chemical reaction releases immense amounts of pressure, immense amounts of hot gases, but it does not release a lot of fire. It releases a lot of hot gases. This heat also creates a lot of pressure difference. So the chemical reaction releases immense amounts of heat and gases in a time less than a nanosecond. So think about it, all this explosion and heat which is produced in a less than a nanosecond, leading to a violent blast which can lead to a velocity of up to 3200 meters per second, which can cause extensive damage. It is pertinent to note that only 5 to 10% of this mixture will be of fuel oil. The bomb most probably would use a high power detonator or a different primary incendiary material. So primary incendiary material is basically a thing which burns very easily, so that the rest of the flammable thing which does not burn very easily can also burn. So that is known as a primary incendiary material. A small starter explosion, we can say that something like a small starter explosion, like in our bike or car, we use a spark plug to start the explosion, and then especially in a diesel car, the explosion, the internal explosion or the internal combustion continues without a spark plug, whereas to initiate you need a spark plug. Similar to that, this is also a primary incendiary material. So in order to detonate the ANFO, this primary incendiary material might be recovered. ANFO, what is ANFO? ANFO is Ammonium Nitrate Fuel Oil combination. This combination in United Nations terms is known as ANFO. So that is what is ANFO. So how is this investigation done? So for any explosion investigation, there are standard set of rules. These rules and regulations are governed by something known as the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, which is located in Delhi and which has state and district branches as well. So the district or the local branch of this NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, will do the investigation, or rather they will start the investigation for any such calamity or disaster, not just including your natural calamity. All man-made calamities are also managed by the NDMA. And then there is the NDRF, Natural Disaster Response Force, right? This force responds to any disaster, natural disaster or man-made disaster, and helps engages in the rescue, relief and rehabilitation operations. The investigation into any explosion takes place in the following steps. First, the area cordon, and then there is a sweep for explosives, and then there is the search and rescue of people, finally followed by body and evidence recovery, and finally restoration of the place and rehabilitation of the people who were involved or affected by the particular disaster. So in this area cordon, the size of the perimeter is not decided in India by any predetermined authority. It is done on a case-to-case basis by the analysis of the particular incident by the NDMA and the local authorities. So once the NDMA and the local authorities get together and decide on the magnitude of the incident as to what has happened and how far-reaching is the impact of this particular incident, then the area cordon is decided on a case-to-case basis. So in this particular image, you can see that there are yellow police tapes surrounding the blast area. This is known as a cordon of area. So this yellow tape is used for cordoning of areas. And then the next step is to sweep for explosives. So how is this sweep done? This sweep is done in a quadrant to quadrant manner from one area to another area. Each area or the particular blast site will be divided into multiple areas, and each area will be thoroughly investigated and thoroughly swept for any leftover or any secondary explosive which is there in the area. Why? Because after the primary explosion, we should not become complacent and let way or leave way for a secondary explosion. So in order to avoid a secondary explosion, this sweep is done. It is also done with the help of K9 units. So what are these K9 units? K9 unit is a very cute name for the dog force, which is known as bomb sweeper dogs or the bomb sniffing dogs. They are known as K9 units. Why? Because dogs have a big canine teeth. So that is why they are known as K9 units, not CANINE, it is K-9 units. Very good name for a dog squad. And then next what happens? Search and rescue. This is the most important part of the entire disaster relief plan. The disaster relief team, it might be comprised of local authorities or authorities from NDMA, NDRF and the local authorities. They will go into the area. Once the sweep is over, the sweep is not just done for explosives, it is also done for other things such as radiation or any other harmful material. Once the area is clear, once the authorities give a green signal that the area is clear, the search and rescue teams go into that particular area along with the help of K9 units and other technologies as well. They try to find people who are still stuck inside the area, who are not able to move, who might have been badly hurt and are unconscious. They might be stuck under the rubble. All these people are searched for and they are tried to rescue, right? Once the search for survivors begin, priority is given to people who are severely injured and can be saved by immediate intervention, followed by less severely injured or not injured people according to the chance of survival, and finally for the lethally injured and the dead people. This system is known as triaging. It is usually used to prioritize and save as many lives as possible during any mass casualty. Once the survivors are rescued and taken away for medical care, search for the deceased and the evidence collection begins. So, once with the help of K9 units, it is the bodies are identified. Even if the bodies are stuck under rubble or under collapsed structures, machines are also used. Machines, what type of machines? Machines with X-ray capability or machines with ultrasound capability are used to bypass the structures or see inside structures to see whether there are any people or any bodies trapped under rubble or trapped under any particular structure. Machines with ultrasound capabilities are sometimes used for search in special cases. One of the times such machines were used was after the 9/11 terrorist attack on the Twin Towers in New York, United States. Entirety of the crime scene is photographed for preservation. Photos are taken especially of significant findings in the blast site such as detonator parts, any fragments from the bomb itself, any shrapnel which could have originated from the bomb. These evidences are then marked in the same place that they were found. They are tagged, they are given a number and photographed before being moved for analysis in any lab. This is done in order to preserve the location of the evidence in relation to the crime scene, which may be useful in further analysis or during court proceedings. There are multiple methods of combing through a crime scene and documenting it, which if I add to this video will make it too long, so that video will be saved for some other day. So how to analyze a crime scene, how to go through a crime scene, how to go through a mass disaster crime scene, and how to go through a crime scene such as a murder. All these will be put up in forthcoming videos, so wait for those videos, don't go anywhere, right? So continuing with the video, the initial objective of the search will be to identify the source of the blast, otherwise known as ground zero. This ground zero can also be seen in the 9/11 site today. It is known as the ground zero, where the Twin Towers were earlier standing. Now there is a memorial known as the Ground Zero Memorial. Once ground zero is identified, projectiles which have been thrown from the explosion are identified, tagged, photographed, and they are preserved for lab analysis. Swab samples are taken from the source of the blast and from the surrounding areas in order to attempt in identifying the identity of the explosive or of the accelerant. In recent years, 3D modeling of a crime scene has come to be known as one of the methods of preserving the crime scene. Why? Because this 3D modeling of a crime scene is very favored because it captures very minute data, even granular data. Hundreds of thousands of photographs of the crime scene are taken, and all these photographs are combined together, and along with the help of artificial intelligence or with the help of normal computing powers, it is used to produce a detailed recreation of even the smallest, most minute details of the crime scene. Therefore, having an entire crime scene in a 3D model becomes very useful. When the case goes to court, it will become easy to prove or disprove any theory or any finding. Through such methods, the evidence for Delhi blast has also been preserved. Investigations are underway to find the culprits and to find out the entire network who is behind this particular blast, and to weed out anyone else who might also have all these wrong ideas or wrong ideations, ideologies which go against the constitution and against the country and against the people. This, what will be next? What is the next step? The next intent of the law enforcement agencies will be to figure out how such a big quantity of ammonium nitrate ended up in a main city, a heartland city such as Delhi, a strictly regulated substance which was brought into Delhi. And where did the terrorists find access to fuel oil in order to mix with the ammonium nitrate and to create this ANFO explosive? So, as the SSP Dr. Chakravarthy was looking at the posters, he was determined to find how these posters ended up where they have ended up. So, he started an investigation into how these posters ended up in that place. So, as a part of the investigation, determined to trace the origin of the posters, he ordered a detailed CCTV footage review, and the CCTV footage soon identified 3 overground workers who were tasked with this task of putting up these posters, and the 3 overground workers were immediately detained. And on the interrogation of the overground workers, one name came up. The name of a Maulvi Irfan Ahmed, a Muslim cleric from the Shopian district of Kashmir, who was interrogated for over a period of 3 weeks. And during this 3-week interrogation, some important names came up. So what were these names? First one was a Dr. Muzammil Ganai. Second one, a Dr. Adil Ahmed Ratar, Dr. Shaheen Saeed, and one Dr. Muhammad Umar Un Nabi. Of these 4 doctors, 3 doctors were arrested from various parts of India. Especially, it is important to note that Dr. Shaheen Saeed is a woman and who was very fond of doing humanitarian work. It was reported by NDTV on 11th of November that Dr. Shaheen was in charge of the Indian chapter of the women's wing of Jaish-e-Mohammed, known as Jamaat-ul-Mominat or League of Women, headed by JEM founder Masood Azhar's sister Sadia Azhar in Pakistan. She is also said to have received funds for her welfare activities through the same organization. Of the 4 identified doctors, the only one who was still missing and who was not arrested yet was Dr. Muhammad Umar Un Nabi, who was absconding arrest. The police also arrested one Zamir Ahmed Hangar, who was linked to the Maulvi Irfan Ahmed and who had direct contact through the Telegram app to Pakistani terrorists from the Jaish-e-Mohammed organization. So this directly puts the Maulvi in contact with Pakistani terror operators. Zamir Ahmed also confessed to have radicalized Dr. Muzammil, who in turn radicalized the other doctors in the list. And the common ground of operation for all these people was the Al Falah University, which is present in the national capital region inside Faridabad. So, the Al Falah University and all these terror operators were situated so close to the national capital region, inside the national capital region in fact, which made it easier for them to carry out this particular attack. On the 10th of November, hours before the explosion near the Red Fort, NDTV reported that the Kashmiri police, in coordination with UP and Haryana police, had arrested Ganai and Ratar in an operation which had been underway for 2 weeks. They had also recovered 360 kgs of ammonium nitrate, an assault rifle and a pistol from Muzammil, who was arrested from Faridabad. In the whole operation, a total of 2,900 kgs of explosive making materials had been recovered, averting a major incident. However, there was still a missing piece. So, the police were still in search for Dr. Muhammad Umar Un Nabi. During this time, the doctor's phone was put on trace and there were other methods also employed into finding the doctor. But despite of police action, the doctor had somehow managed to bring a car, that is the white I-20 car, which was filled with explosives, into Delhi from Faridabad inside Delhi. The car entered the Delhi city on the morning of 10th of November and it was roaming around in areas throughout Delhi, where also it was parked for around 3 hours near a masjid inside Delhi, And while the car was being moved from one place to another through the red fort or through the gate number 1 signal of the red fort, the car exploded, and that is how this explosion had taken place. Well, did the doctor light the fuse, or rather did the doctor detonate the bomb, or was it a mistake, and whether the bomb ignited and the explosion happened by itself, that is still a mystery, and that is still awaiting reports by the forensic experts who can opine on these incidents. Why am I telling this bomb can be a mistake, or rather it could have exploded by mistake? That is what happens with ANFO, that is ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. Ammonium nitrate in itself is very stable. The fuel oil kept separately might be flammable, but is still pretty stable. But when combined together, as a single compound, these two agents have the tendency to erupt due to certain small temperature changes or humidity changes, and that is how the explosion even in Beirut, Lebanon took place, because there was a humidity change and temperature change in the storage area which led to the explosion. So whether the explosion was intentional or whether it was accidental, either way, bringing ammonium nitrate and fuel oil and making it into ANFO and attaching a igniter or attaching a fuse to the bomb in itself is an act of terror, in itself is legally enough to prosecute the doctors. So how will this case continue? This event will mutate into further discoveries and bigger organizations, and may even become a transnational issue. So we will be following the developments closely, and we will be reporting on this channel. Whenever such an event occurs, there is an immediate hysteria and cry for revenge. But as intellectually curious people, it is our foremost duty to strive for one thing and only one thing above all else, that is only the truth and nothing else. Until I meet you for the next video with one more such interesting story or another history, this is Dr. Aditya signing off from Beyond the Blade. Wait until the next video. I'll catch you there. Bye-bye.